This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell and Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 132 is here. We are in full swing, full motion. And needless to say, we are so very excited for our third annual NFL prediction show. This is my favorite show by far each and every year. And of course, it goes without saying that we love each and every episode that we do. We always have fun here at the Spoken Podcast, but this is the show that I feel really puts us either on blast or makes us look like damn geniuses. And I'm hoping that I lean more to the right side on that one than the left, but we know how this usually goes. I usually end up looking like a dumbass, and Trevor and Eddie end up giving me L's throughout the rest of the year. But nevertheless, guys, this is a great sign because we know that this means that football is here. We are less than a week away from the NFL season swinging off, getting going, and I could not be more excited for that, guys. We have some big games coming up, even in week one, which I cannot put into bigger emphasis than I can right now, that we got a great slate of games coming up, and we're going to give you guys our predictions all the way through the regular season, the postseason, and obviously we're going to give you guys our MVPs, defensive rookie of the years, our defensive and offensive player of the years, head coaches, Super Bowl MVP, all that stuff. So strap in, get ready to go, because we're ready to go. So Eddie and Trevor, I wanted to start with you guys tonight because before we get going to our prediction show, I wanted to also get your guys' thoughts in regards to the Chiefs' final 53 roster. Now, we had talked about this leading up as to what we'd like to see. I know I put out my predictions on our Twitter page, on our Facebook, which, by the way, on our Twitter handle, you can follow us at The Spoken Pod, and obviously on our Facebook group, it's just The Spoken. You guys can join us on that as well if you haven't already. But something I put out there is that I think we all kind of knew that there was going to be around 45 to 46 players that we knew for sure were going to make this roster. I think we all knew that there was going to be these core guys that were pretty much damn near safe. But I kind of went out on a limb. I told you guys in last week's episode 131 that I felt this was time for the Chiefs to move away from Demarcus Robinson because I haven't felt that he had elevated his game from one year to the next over the last 4 or 5 years. But they kept Demarcus Robinson. They have enough faith in him. They think they believe in him enough that he's going to give this offense something because that's the only thing he can really offer him, because on special teams, he doesn't offer really anything at all, as Dave Tope has alluded to over these last couple of weeks. Yeah. Some of the surprising cuts initially to me were Matt Kemp, who is now he's anticipated to be on the roster. In fact, I think he might already be back on the roster because I know Austin Blythe is going to go on the IR for a little bit. Kyle Long's going to be on the PUP, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
We don't know what's going to happen with LDT.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. I know he's been in trade conversations as well because he's not going to play on this team. He may not be the third right guard on this team as currently constructed behind Trey Smith and even potentially Austin Blythe if he plays guard, and Andrew Wiley and guys like that as well. But what shocks me, though, is one piece really in particular. You guys knew I was big on Cornell Powell. He ended up making the practice squad. I loved Derek Gore. He's back on the practice squad, which is awesome as well. But the one piece that I was surprised by that the Chiefs let go was Tim Ward. And it's not because Tim Ward is some profound player that I'm expecting to have big results this season. It's just his talent. And I felt that the Chiefs could hold on to talent this season going into the year because of depth and how much depth is important going into a long 17-game schedule. The reason why I believed it was a big, not a mistake, but a surprise for me is because of the fact that we know that once guys get cut, they enter the waiver wire. Well, only the Jaguars passed on Tim Ward. Tim Ward was passed up by the Jaguars, and the very next team was Robert Saleh's New York Jets, and they picked him up instantly. That, to me, is a sign that teams know this guy has something. I don't know what the something is, but I do know that something. A part of that something is his talent and the way he played in the preseason, having 3 sacks in just 3 preseason games. So there is something to his game that I think that fans and teams were paying attention to. But other than that, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think this is by far the deepest roster the Chiefs have had, at least in the Mahomes era. But I'm going to go as far as to say in recent memory. I think now we've seen some really good rosters, especially over the last 8 years with Andy Reid. The Chiefs have had several top 10 defenses. They've obviously had top 10 offenses. They've been able to put together great teams from 1 to 53. But I think this is the best one they've put together. And I think that proves it, that if we're sitting here talking about a guy like Tim Ward, who was impressive to say the least in preseason, getting cut, That tells me that this team is that talented. They were willing to move on from a guy like that who was basically free, was making really no money at all. They still cut him because they believed they had enough at those positions and at pass rush to get the most out of this core that they have right now. What were you guys' thoughts? Was there any shocking takeaways from you guys when it came to cuts in the final 53?
No, I am glad that Cornell Powell got picked back up and put on the practice squad. I want to keep him around. That was a big thing for me. I didn't want to see him just go away completely. But no, I mean, yeah. Outside of the ones that you mentioned, I don't think there was any. There was never really any shocking ones. I think a lot of people were still shocked that we kept that many tight ends, which we weren't because we've been on board with that the whole time. Because this is kind of something new that we've done. We haven't never really kept this many tight ends, but we've never had this much tight end talent. And Andy Reid's even came out on the Collins show and Coward show and talked about how we're going to try to do something that we've never done before with this offense. Andy Reid's coming out and saying things like that. That's exciting. And I think a lot of that has to do with tight ends. I think we're going to try a lot of 3 and 4 tight end sets. I think protecting Patrick Mahomes is the absolute goal this year, keeping him upright. And when you're running 3 to 4 tight end sets, man, that you're getting that much more protection or that much more weapons at the same time in the field. That's a very tough offensive scheme to defend, especially when you got guys at that height and that athletic ability. But as far as the roster goes, I'm happy with it. Kemp was another guy I was surprised that got the cut, but they're going to be bringing him back. He's a guy they want to keep around. I wanted to see what they were going to do with the receiver, like the Demarcus Robinson thing, because he has had zero hype around him, and I still want to see if we're going to make any other moves at wide receiver. I do know that John Brown's out there. So I would love to have John Brown. Been a big fan of him for a long time, Smokey John Brown, and I would love to have a guy that personally requested to leave the Raiders and then come to the Chiefs. That's just a fun, story for me. But yeah, man, nobody of note, especially defensively, really outside of there's just outside of I think the Taco move early on was the biggest move defensively, getting rid of Taco Charlton. Yeah. I felt like that was the most talented guy we've cut and let go from this defense, but. Nobody really of note that's gone on this roster. We kept everybody around. This is the hardest time of year, man, for coaches. Coaches typically always say if they could, they would keep everyone on this roster.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased with it. I'm happy with it. I know you're not pleased that D-Rob's still on this roster, but it is what it is. I mean, he's a guy that knows the offense well. Can he perform the offense? That's the question. But he knows the plays. Him and Pat are cool. That's why he's really here. It's not really a talent thing in my mind, but it is what it is. I'm happy with the roster. I'm happy with the guys that are here, and I'm happy with the guys that got brought back to the practice squad. And I will say, good luck to Derek Gore. The kid's got promise. He kind of looked like this. He kind of looked like the second coming of Shady McCoy when he ran that ball. That 50-yard touchdown sprint that he had. He looked so much like prime Shady McCoy. That's who he reminded me of the most. And good luck to him. Where did he land again? He landed in
Derek Gore?
Yeah.
No, he's on the practice squad.
Yeah. Oh, he's on the practice squad?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought
Darwin Thompson.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
I got that mixed up. Well, kudos to Darwin, too, for getting picked up. I'm glad we kept Derek Gore. I didn't realize. I had those two flip-flops. Okay, so yeah. Man, hey, more power to the Chiefs keeping him around. That makes me even more happy. So, yeah, I'm happy with the cuts, man. I'm happy with the moves. I'm happy with everybody that's on this roster currently.
Yeah, man. I'm happy with what the Chiefs did this season. I'm happy with the 53-man roster that they put out. Nothing really surprised me or shocked me. Obviously, you were probably shocked that D-Rob was still on the team, but.
Here's the thing: I wasn't shocked. I knew that he was probably going to make the roster. I mean, it wasn't my choice.
I was a little.
It was against my will.
I guess I wouldn't say I was shocked.
Should've
It was just
told him.
a little more. It was more of a surprise when they cut Powell and then put him in the. I was kind of like, I didn't see that coming a little bit. I didn't expect him to be a top wide receiver, obviously with the Chiefs, but I didn't think he was gonna get caught. I guess you can say that's my shocking cut because obviously you drafted him. I felt like he was in a safe spot this season. Maybe next season, if this season didn't work out, maybe next season we would see him in the practice squad or just completely get cut from the NFL overall. But I was a little surprised in that one. But other than that, I'm happy with what they did with the team that they're building. I'm so stoked about the 4 tight ends. That's something we haven't seen with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I don't think in recent memory.
I think we're gonna see something special.
It's gonna be fucking awesome. We saw 4 tight ends in that fucking who they play the Vikings game.
Yeah,
and it was beautiful.
Yep. Not a negative play on the offense during that time.
That was fucking beautiful. I loved everything about that, and I love how they're putting their faith on Jordy Fortson and how they're expecting good stuff from him. And we saw what he did in the preseason, and hopefully he can bring that same energy to the season. So I'm so stoked, man. I'm happy with the roster. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I think that if there was one word that I had to attribute to this current roster as it stands, I think it's versatility. There is so much versatility on both sides of the ball. And quite frankly, all 3 phases, if we're being honest here, when it comes to special teams as well. Because of the fact that you're looking at a offense, like you guys both alluded to very eloquently, I might add, is you have an offense now that I think is, because I watched Mitch Holthus, Matt McMullen, and Sean Barber talk this morning when I was getting everything prepared this morning for the show about how many times Sean Barber, in his memory, he played, I think, 10, 11 years in the NFL, how many times he even remembers strategizing against 14 personnel. And he couldn't remember more than a handful of times. See, that is Andy Reid to the T, and that's why as soon as I heard Sean Barber say that, and a former NFL veteran, a former linebacker who usually calls the plays for their defense, that was very telling, because I think that now the writing is on the wall that Andy Reid is going to implement yet another new-ish style of offense to the NFL. We've seen him when others zig, he zags, and vice versa. Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot from this offense from 4 tight end sets, 14 personnel. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I remember just a little over a year ago, we're sitting here talking about how I want to see more 12 personnel, more 13 personnel. Well, now we're going to get that and more. We're going to see 14 personnel take place, and that is what I think is going to add so much more of a dimension to this offense, more than just from Patrick Mahomes' passing abilities and staying clean in the pocket. It's also for the run game, because now they're going to attack you in ways that you can't even predict. Not that you can't expect or even predict, and that's got to be scary for opposition, for defensive opposition.
You have either extra protection or extra weapons out there. That's such a tough offensive
And I think it's telling. I think it was very telling, too, because as you guys brought up the Vikings game, how easy it looked. Now, obviously, the Vikings, a middling team, which we're going to get to our predictions in as well, but a defensive-minded team behind Mike Zimmer, to be able to see how easy that looked for them to score on that drive when they ran 14 personnel just that one time should be telling about how easy it could potentially be in the season at times as well. Now, teams are going to adapt, teams are going to adjust, teams are going to do what they can. But I think it's going to be very difficult for teams because, as I put down, and Jason Dunn, former Chiefs tight end back in the day when Trevor and I were growing up, he complimented me on this. I said, look, when you have a 6'5" Travis Kelce, a 6'6" Blake Bell, a 6'6" Jody Fortson, and a 6'3" Noah Gray on the field at the same time, Patrick Mahomes literally has the option to throw to skyscrapers with cleats. I mean, that is the truth, man. Think about that. I mean, you have McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, even Byron Pringle, if you want to throw them in there, speedsters, undersized receivers, going out there and getting their own deep down the field. But then you have these 4 options that are over 6'3" each to utilize either in the blocking game for Clyde Edwards-Helaire or in the pass game in the middle of the field, which we know Andy Reid loves to eat up in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I don't know how there's any negative to take away from them keeping this roster the way it is. So if you look at just the versatility side on the offensive side, this is going to be by far one of the scariest offenses in the league. And I know that's not breaking news because Patrick Mahomes is here, and since 2018, they've had the best offense in the NFL, averaging 31 points per game. I think it goes another level. And on the defensive side, we're talking about Chris Jones, a former defensive tackle, is now playing defensive end. He's going to be there full time. I think that now you're looking at even more versatile defense because the Chiefs have been able to get pressure on quarterbacks over the last couple of seasons. Yeah. But now that you got Chris Jones on the outside, teamed up with Frank Clark, and then you have your guys like Deshaun Wharton and Derek Nottie and Darren Reed in the middle. I mean, Willie Gay's injury sucks, and we're going to miss him for 3 or 4 weeks, and that is going to suck just from an athletic standpoint.
Hopefully Tyron's ready for week 1, too.
And that's kind of the point I was going to bring up as well, is that the fact that, according to reports, Tyrann Mathieu has shown no symptoms. He's going to test in about 4 days. He should be ready for week 1. Everything is reporting
symptoms don't matter as long as if you're testing positive, that's all.
It's a part of it, though, because of the fact that, according to NFL policies, if you are a fully vaxxed player, if you have 2 back-to-back negative tests within 24 hours, with no symptoms, that is a part of it, then you can play that next game. So that is the look, that is the hope that Tyrann Mathieu will be there for week 1. I know that's a big worry, man, because he is the general of this defense. He's the landlord of the team, if we're being honest.
Opponent week 1 too.
Yeah, exactly. And the Chiefs have not played a single game since Tyrann Mathieu's been with the Chiefs without Tyrann Mathieu. He's played all 32 games regular season. Well, I don't think he played week 17 against the Chargers, but you know what I mean. So that's where I sit on the final 53. I think overall we're all very pleased with what the team put together, and I think that we're very much looking forward to.
It just tells you how deep this team is.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I want this player to make it, I want this player to make it, I want this player to make it, but then they made all these cuts, and they're like, oh my God, I'm not worried at all that they cut this player. You know what I mean? Like, we have enough depth to where I'm comfortable where we're at. I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we obviously have our predictions to get to, guys, and I promise you're gonna. I'm just telling you right now, I'm excited to get some of these down because I think there's going to be some very unexpected predictions, at least on my end. Trevor told me to get ready for some hot takes. I'm sure Eddie's got his own, but we need to get to you guys first. We have the Monday mailbag. I know the show's a little bit different than how we normally do each and every episode throughout the year, but this is what this is, man. It is our 3rd annual prediction show, and we're going to save that for the best for last. Obviously, we're going to hand out some L's. That's a prerequisite. We know that. But we need to get to you guys first, the Monday mailbag. Eddie, what is in the mailbag this week?
All right, man. We got first question came in from Corey Jones. Lance, Eddie, and Trevor. If you go into a porta potty at Arrowhead with the X Factor and stay inside it for 10 minutes, you will either get $1,000 each or $100,000 each. But the caveat is you don't know the monetary outcome. No mask and no gloves. Are you doing it?
No. There's no money in the world that would put me in that scenario.
I honestly don't know who that is, but
that's good, Eddie.
That's good. Well, lucky you.
What that is?
Well, lucky you. Lucky you.
Because that's an experience from hell. As I'm wearing my Hellraiser shirt, this is what it would look like inside that porta potty.
Yeah, I don't know.
If y'all can't get a good look at that, that's exactly.
I apologize. I don't know X Factor, like the show X Factor. Like
oh no, it's an entity.
Oh,
it is an entity.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
I don't
a living,
know.
breathing thing.
Don't know who that is.
Yeah. So no for me as well. Yeah.
I guess we're all going no because I don't know.
I will go no.
Okay. Next question comes from Corey Jones. Who in Chiefs Kingdom has big timed you guys before? Call him out. God damn.
Big timed. I'm gonna be careful with that one because we always try to maintain relationships here in the media world. I will say we've been big timed. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a second. It's hard to say we've been big timed.
I don't think that we've ever been big time to where like, you're too small of a show. I don't think we've ever.
I mean, maybe silently they wouldn't reply, but overall, I mean, people have been pretty good to us. I think overall as a collective,
we appreciate.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've been. I don't think we've ever been big timed. I know that sounds kind of arrogant because everybody shows up
on Good Morning Football, so. So I mean, what's bigger than that right now?
I mean, maybe we should start like challenging ourselves a little bit more and like start like swinging like heavy. But I mean, we can go down the Rolodex here, man. We've had everybody on the 610 platform, pretty much. Everyone on the 810, Arrowhead Pride, KCSN,
beat writers from the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean. I feel kind of proud thinking about it now. Man, we've done actually not that bad.
We're kind of the shit.
Yeah, like, what's all on over here? Thank you, Corey, for helping us remember that. No, I don't think it's happened yet, and I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and knock on this wooden table. But
knock on wood if you're with me.
Yeah, exactly. Brother onward, you know? Like, no, I think I can't think of anything. I feel bad. I want to give him an answer because I have no problem calling somebody out if they actually did that to us, but I can't think of anybody.
No one denies us. No one.
It's always yes or no.
That's my dating strategy.
From every day from now on.
That's my dating strategy, anyways.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know who did big time us was Corey when he came on our show a few weeks ago. Awesome. Artist Chief. He did big time us, so there's that.
True.
All right, next question. The next question is from Tara Williams.
Oh, hey, that's Shaggy Shane's daughter. Badass. Okay.
Shout out.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to her.
To the Williams family. How many times do you see the Chiefs activating 4 tight ends this season? Since normally they only have 3.
That's a perfect question.
Great
it segues
question.
just right from where we came from. I think it's going to happen a lot. I really do, guys. I think Andy Reid sees something special. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily just because there happen to be 4 tight ends, because as we all remember, Jody Fortson is actually a wide receiver by nature. He's actually originally a wide receiver. So this is a converted wide receiver turned tight end. So you're actually, if you really look at it, outside of Blake Bell, these other 3 tight ends on this roster are receiving first options. Like, they're not, I mean, Noah Gray had a really good blocking career in college. Travis Kelce's a decent blocker himself, and I'm sure that Jody Fortson will be just fine. Yeah. But we all know that outside of Blake Bell, we know the number one objective to have those guys on the field is to receive passes. So, I don't see, I can't envision a scenario where Andy Reid doesn't see that himself and says, okay, we're going to go up against some juggernaut defenses in the first month of the season. We're going to utilize this early and often. So I think it's going to be more than 30-40%. I really think we're going to see, well, maybe not 40%, but I can see like 25 to 30% of the offense. I can see those types of scenarios where it's at least 13 personnel, but 14 personnel is going to be utilized a lot this year.
Yeah, let me make this not safe for work. This 4 tight end set, 3 tight end sets is my football wet dream.
Woo!
Straight up. I think as great as our offense was last year and the years past, we struggled in the red zone last year offensively. We struggled a lot of times putting the ball in the end zone. We settled for way too many field goals in my mind. Things just got uncomfortable, and a lot of that is attributed to we didn't have a great O-line. It was a shaky O-line for most of the year. Especially towards the end of the year, obviously. But I think a big reason why we're going to be implementing this 4 tight end set is going to be huge in the red zone. Because there's, like you said, the skyscrapers with cleats. I mean, it's going to be so tough to defend when things get tight. When things get tight, speed isn't the biggest thing. You need height. Mm-hmm. You need guys that can go get those jump balls when things are tight in the red zone. That's why I think this is going to be implemented the most with the tight ends is when we get into within the 20.
Especially because last year we kind of struggled a little bit in the red zone.
That's what I'm saying. That was our biggest offensively outside of our O-line. Our biggest struggle last year was finishing drives. We had good drives. We'd get down there, but we scored way more from outside of the 20 than we did once we got inside the 20. So that was our biggest issue. So that's what I'm saying. My personal fantasy wet dream for football is this. This is, I mean, defenses are going to be, their knees are going to be weak, man, when things get tight and these defenders don't know if these tight ends are going to go throw bodies and pancake these guys or if they're going to check them at the line and then run a route because 3 of these guys are legitimate receivers, these tight ends. They're not just traditional tight end blocker, brick type guys. These are legitimate. One of them is legitimately a wide receiver that's converted to tight end. So this is going to be, and he happens to be our tallest one. So, yeah, man, it's going to be a blast, and I'm looking forward to seeing not only the running game improve, but these tight ends just go out there and wreak havoc.
Trevor's going to have to change his sheets quite often this year, man.
I got another pair of pants.
He lets him sit too long, might crack him in half.
Ready to go.
I like it. All right, last question comes from Shane. Shaggy Shane.
Yeah, the whole family's hanging out, man. All right.
That's awesome. Thank you. Willie Gay's injuries are frustrating. Do you see his career in doubt with his recent rash of injuries, or do you think it is just bad luck like Sammy Watkins?
I think it's a little bit in between of both because of the fact that this is something we can no longer ignore. We got to go back to last season, Willie Gay's rookie year. Yeah. He has that injury late in the year with the ankle injury, correct? Then we're like, okay, he's going to be fine. Well, he wasn't fine. He misses the divisional round game, and then he misses the AFC Championship game. Then he's getting ready to play in the Super Bowl and tears his meniscus. So he misses that game as well. And then we go into this year, into training camp, has a concussion. And now, going into week 1, he gets turf toe. This is a collection of injuries within a calendar year, man, that we cannot ignore here, guys. We have to really pay attention to this now because he's had a string of injuries. I don't know if it's career-threatening yet. I don't believe that because the guy's so young and he's athletically gifted, and it's not like he's out here tearing multiple ACLs and an Achilles tear. It's not like that. It's not to that magnitude yet. But it is getting kind of close to that Sammy Watkins-esque worry because of the fact that this guy just cannot stay healthy for a string of games at this time of his career. Do I think that's going to be the case forever? No. But it's something that now I am going to pay attention to and it'll be a lot more closer to because he's in a position, literally, where he has to make strong and heavy contact on a consistent basis. He's the one that's creating collisions. And that is something where you have to be able to stay healthy and have to stay available. And if he's not going to do that, then this is something the Chiefs should worry about as well.
I don't think it's nearly on the level of Sammy Watkins. The only injuries you need to worry about that are consistent, that are keep popping up for a specific player, are soft tissue issues. Soft tissue injuries, and that's what Sammy Watkins has done with his whole career. If it's consistently a hamstring, or he can't keep his quads, intact, or it's some kind of calf strain consistently, it's some kind of tendon issue all the time, that's worrisome. that's something that will almost always linger for a lot of players in their career. Which is why I'm worried about, like, guys coming back from, that's what was worrisome about Sammy Watkins the whole time, and he kept coming back from that. So this turf toe is kind of a freak thing. I mean, Patrick Mahomes dealt with it last year. He had to get that offseason surgery. He was dealing with it towards the end of the year. I'm glad it's early in the year before the year actually gets going, so he can get that taken care of, and hopefully he doesn't have to require surgery. Then that would probably end the season for him. But I think he's going to be fine. I think they caught it early. I think he was dealing with some lingering pain early, and I think they're going to take care of him. He'll be ready probably in 3 to 4 weeks is what they're saying, which sucks. But at the same time, I'm as a caveat, I'm looking at this as kind of a bright side of it, because I've loved what I've seen from Nick Bolton so far. I think this kind of gives Nick Bolton a chance to throw the kid out there, and he looks like a vet already, man. That kid's out there making plays, and I love the way he tackles. So I think this might give him a chance to get a lot of reps. We'll see some Ben Neiman, unfortunately. Like I was talking in the group text, get ready for a lot of Ben Neiman. But I think Nick Bolton impressed not only the fans but the coaches, man. I think he came in, he looked ready. I think we'll see a lot of Nick Bolton. So this might give him a chance to kind of like, an early chance to kind of get out there and get himself acclimated. So this could be a pro to the con, but it does suck, man. Willie Gay was looking to be ready for a big year. This is just a setback, but he'll be back.
All right. I'm going to add a couple questions to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was it for the Monday mailbag, but I'm going to add a few questions. So reports are coming out and out of obviously the Cowboys camp, and they're saying that Dak Prescott is a go for Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe them. I mean, he'll play. Look, man.
There's been so many conflicting reports.
Yeah, this is the issue here. Do you guys not like read everything up? I'm not the best with math, but I know how to add 1 + 1, right? And all throughout this offseason, we've heard nothing but reports of him having an injury that's not normal to a football player, especially a quarterback, where they had the Texans and other baseball teams, or Texas Rangers coming out and observing their medical practitioners coming out and checking on him and seeing what the hell happened here. And it was never really fully disclosed as to what happened and made this injury occur. We were going into this offseason thinking that, is Dak going to be okay on that ankle? He snapped his ankle. It was a horrific injury. That's been the last thing on our minds now, because that fully recovered. He looks mobile, but all through training camp, guys, in the preseason, he couldn't even throw with his right arm. Now, all of a sudden, he's just miraculously healed? Like, I'm not sitting here saying he can't throw the football, but how effective is he going to be? Because we all know Dak doesn't have the greatest arm to begin with. Is he accurate? Yes. Yeah. But he doesn't have the strongest arm. So now that he's got a lat tear, according to reports, and Dallas's Twitter account coming out and trying to downplay without anybody even asking, like those memes where it says nobody and there's like nothing, and then that person says something. That's what it looked like. That's what it felt like, and I have to be concerned. I'm not even a Cowboys guy, but just as a football fan, I have to call a little bullshit on this. I have to think that there is more to it than what they're trying to allude to, and to go against the defending champions one on a Thursday night, I don't know if that's the best thing for Dak.
That's a good defense too.
It's a very good defense, yes. Yeah. So that's where I'm at on it, man.
Look, I'm a big. It took me. I had to warm up to Dak. I was early on in his career. I was just calling him another Alex Smith. That's what I thought he was. But in a sense, his style is very similar to Alex Smith. He's a little bit better of a thrower of the football and takes a little more chances and is definitely more athletic, which is saying a lot because Alex Smith was a very athletic guy.
Yeah.
But Dak is a specimen, man. He is what he is. He's but if his throwing ability is tainted even more than it naturally is, they're going to be in trouble, man. That offense is set up for success this year. That is a stacked offense. Receivers and running back, that whole room is legit, and they bettered their O-line a little bit better, and that defense should be not so shitty this year, maybe. I don't know, but it's a tough week 1 matchup. I don't know if I would throw him out there, but the reports are definitely, they've been all over the place for the last month. No one can really get a grasp on what really is going on with Dak. But if it is a lat tear, that's what I'm saying. Just like my last point about the soft tissue issues, injuries, and muscle injuries. Even pulled muscles, let alone tears or slight tears. Slight tears can turn into full tears, and if he has a semi-torn lat on his throwing arm, and he throws the ball and tweaks it in some sort of way, it can only go downhill from there, man. So this is definitely, I'm worried for him. I want to see him have a full season, just for football purposes, having good quality football, and I think this Dallas team could be really fun to watch. And it's always more fun with him out there. So I'm hoping they make the right decision. If they're saying that and he's out there, I mean, you have to trust the professionals. We're not professionals here, so you have to trust what they say. But this just the conflicting reports has made things suspect a little bit. So I don't know.
I mean, one more question for you guys. So Tom Brady, yes, I believe it was yesterday, said that the NFL is catering to the offense has deteriorated the game, and some of the words he used, like they penalize defensive players for offensive mistakes. What are your thoughts on that?
He is 100% right.
It was a great little rant.
I was surprised because look, those types of takes we've heard for years from defensive players, and no one listens to them because they're defensive players. So people think there's this built-in bias. Yeah. Not one word that Tom Brady said was a lie. Everything he said was 100% true. What was ironic about it, though, and I think that it kind of brings to the light of what goes on here, is that Tom Brady himself knows how many favors he's got. Because you know what I put on there? I quote tweeted that on Twitter when I saw that from a Buccaneers reporter, I believe, and I put the video of Chris Jones in that 2018 AFC Championship get chopping down and hitting Tom Brady, missing his helmet completely, and they called a personal foul hitting the helmet of the quarterback. Yep. So if anybody knows this to be true on the offensive side, it's Tom Brady. So for him to bring this to light is something that I think can revolutionize the NFL a little bit, where they can finally start paying attention to these facts, because it is true. He broke it all down. I'm not even going to try to verbatim it. I'm not even going to try to break down what he said. I challenge everybody watching this right now, listening to this podcast, if you're on the podcast or YouTube side of things, to go and listen to what Tom Brady said, because no one could have said it more perfectly. And quite frankly, no one holds more clout to say that than Tom Brady. He's been in the league for over 20 years, and no one has benefited off of referees' horrific calling and penalties than Tom Brady. So for him to say it speaks volumes, and I'm so glad he actually said it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add to that. I was definitely, he eloquently put everything, and you can tell it's from experience, knowledge, clout, everything he has in his repertoire, to put out there and use as factual evidence. And like you said, he's definitely benefited from these things as well. But I liked how he's diving into, quarterbacks got to protect their guys, because, I mean, how many times we've seen it. And it is more of a newer age football thing where defenders are getting, because, dude, back in the day, dudes were catching guys, across the middle. Defenders, like you said, Ray Lewis, he wouldn't even throw to the middle of the field because he knew Ray Lewis was going to knock dudes' heads off if he set him up on over the across the seam route or something like that. He knew Ray Lewis was coming the opposite way. Defenders weren't getting dinged near as much like them. I mean, granted, this all comes down to protection too, because of the CTE thing. Guys, it makes sense though, in a grand scheme of things, because they do got to protect these players a little more. They have to protect the biggest contributors to sales, which are the quarterbacks in these leagues. Those are the superstars of these leagues. So protecting the superstar players, similar to the NBA as well. I mean, there's star treatment in the NBA for sure. So I mean. And the NFL's definitely transitioned to a more of an offensive, type of game, which is benefited. The game is benefiting from it because it's making it more exciting in a lot of ways too. But everything he said was facts. I don't disagree with any of it. I just think it's the new nature of the beast, to be honest. I just think we got to protect these players, and it is what it is. And I think defensive players will adjust. Learning where to hit, lower instead of catching these guys high. But it is a tough world out there for these defensive backs and these linebackers, man. So
they can't hit too low either.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you gotta find that you gotta like Terminator or like Predator. You gotta find that hot spot of the body and hit it. But yeah, it's tough for these defenders out here, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the third annual official 2021 NFL prediction show from the Spoken Podcast here, as you guys have been paying attention to this so far. Eddie, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to start on the NFC side of things, in particular the NFC East, which I think is going to be a particularly interesting division this year.
NFC has so many good divisions in it.
Yes, and God, I'm so excited to talk about this stuff, guys. So strap in, get ready. Eddie Ortiz, from the worst team to the top team. Give me your NFC East predictions.
Look, man, I'm not going to lie. I fucked up and didn't do records. I'm going to put it out there. I will definitely have records.
We know who's holding my L this week.
Well, I'll definitely have records whenever we post it on social media.
Fair enough.
So just know that.
Just copy and paste mine. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. No, but this is exactly how I do think it's going to shape up. Last place, I do have the Washington football team. I just because I think they don't have an identity at quarterback as of now. I don't think they have that